The phone buzzed as my boots hit the end of the boardwalk, sea spray still drying on my sleeves. Captain Keating? Mrs. Ida Whitaker, my curtain scout neighbor, rarely called let alone used the rank. Her voice shook. Honey, I don't want to scare you, but cars have been in and out of your drive all day. Not one or two, more like 8. I saw your cousin Jenna Baird hauling bags inside. I thought you were out of town. Quick roll call before we dive in. Tell me your city in the comments, and after you hear this, what would you do? Be honest. I read them. Multiple vehicles? I asked, already shifting into checklist mode. Says verify act. They look settled, she whispered. Like they live there. Call ended. Thumb to the security app. Feed up. My living room filled the screen, and so did they. Aunt Corinne Beck, feet on my ottoman like she'd bought the wood herself. My brother, Dylan Keating, sprawled across the couch with a beer. Jenna unloading groceries in my kitchen as if she had a lease in her pocket. Laughter bled through the speakers, bright and careless. They knew. The deed was in my name, my purchase quiet and deliberate. They'd crossed the line anyway. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I watched. I steadied my breathing like I'd trained. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. On the feed, Aunt Corinne's voice carried. Finally, a place that fits us. She was going to hand it over eventually. Mara's too soft to push back. Soft? Sure. I booked the first flight. Hours later, I stood on my own porch. Keys still zipped in my bag. Music thumped beyond the frosted glass. Silhouettes drifted past the entryway. I tried the knob. Unlocked. They hadn't even bothered with the pretense. The door opened. Sound died. Faces swung toward me. Mara, Dylan said, pasting on a grin, beer lifted like a peace flag. Back early. We were just keeping the place warm. By breaching it? My voice came out level. Cold air. Sharp edges. Footsteps sounded behind me, measured, unhurried. Graham Holt, my husband, stepped in with his travel coat still crisp from the plane. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He moved to the center of the room and took a slow survey, meeting eyes one by one the way you do when you want everyone to feel seen and pinned. Who told you this belonged to you? He asked. Silence tightened. Corinne started a sentence and swallowed it. Jenna rolled the stem of a glass between her fingers. Dylan studied the floor. Graham's gaze cut back to me for a beat. An unspoken question about why I'd kept the purchase off net even with him. That was a different conversation later. Not in front of this audience. Pack your things, he said, softer now, every word landing heavy. All of you. Now. No one moved. You could feel the room brace. Corinne found her laugh again, brittle around the edges. Graham, sweetheart, this house is family property. Mara knows blood comes first. She doesn't mind. Family property? I said, heat cooling into something cleaner. I signed every document solo. Not one of you paid a cent. Don't try to rebrand theft as tradition. Dylan lifted his chin, smirking. Come on, Mara. You've always kept things close. Secrets, money, plans. What's a big house for if not to share with your own people? It hit nerve memory, old labels they'd welded to me years ago. Ungrateful, difficult, stingy. I'd outgrown them. They hadn't noticed. Graham closed the distance to my brother, voice low enough to make you lean in. You don't live here. You don't get to insult my wife in her home. Jenna dropped a grocery bag. Your wife? She snapped at him, then cut her glare to me. She thinks she's better than us. He's always been hoarding. Attention, money, everything. We're family. We deserve a share. Enough, Graham said. No volume, all authority. The kind that clears a room without blowing a whistle. My palms pricked, nails biting. Years of swallowing it back had trained my restraint. The sight of them lounging on what I built retrained my aim. You're owed nothing, I said, steadying on each syllable. Not a chair. Not a fork. You broke in, trampled my trust, and expect rights? That stops tonight. Corinne surged to her feet, face flushing. Watch your mouth. I raised you when your mother couldn't. You owe me. This house is the least you can do. I flinched at the history baked into her tone. Graham stepped in front of me, a wall I didn't need but appreciated. She owes you nothing, he said. You've run a tab on her for years. It's closed. Dylan slammed his can onto the table, beer splashing. Or what? You'll call the cops? Tell them your in-laws dropped by? They'll laugh you out of the lobby. Graham didn't blink. Try me. The room broke into shouts. Excuses, accusations, all the usual shrapnel. I let the noise pass through me. Mission clarity arrived like a clean horizon. This wasn't a debate. This was documentation. I raised my phone and opened the camera. Dylan noticed first. What are you doing? Building a record, I said. Faces, statements, timestamps. When the footage plays, spare me the shock. For the first time, fear whispered across Jenna's features. Corinne's certainty wobbled. Dylan swore and paced. Graham's fingers brushed the back of my hand, anchor and permission all at once. You don't have to handle them alone, he murmured. I know, I said, lifting my chin. But they're going to watch me handle it. Their voices kept coming, but they'd lost weight. For once, I wasn't the kid shrunk by their shadows. I was the officer who owns this ground. I wasn't the kid they used to steamroll. I was the officer who signs for her own ground and defends it. This house was terrain they could never claim. The room tightened like a badly set perimeter. Faces I once loved looked like uninvited tenants, staking flags in a place they didn't earn. I let the phone camera work. Wide frame, steady wrist, catching every shrug, every smug grin, every sentence they'd want to deny later. Dylan jabbed a finger toward me, beer breath and bravado. You think anyone's taking your side, Mara? We're family. Judges don't toss kin for visiting. You always overdo it. No one takes the drama seriously. Keep talking, I said, voice flat, recorder red. You're filing my report for me. Jenna flipped her hair and laughed without humor. Video won't save you. Buying a place in secret? Hiding from your own blood. You haven't changed. Still the girl pretending she's above us. The words used to land. Tonight they slid off. Graham's knuckles grazed mine. Small touch, big anchor. Before he stepped forward, addressing them like a commander who'd rather not repeat himself. You misread her silence, he said even. Mara doesn't shatter. She absorbs. You've siphoned and shamed for years. She stayed standing. That isn't weakness. That's steel. The air cooled. Jenna's mouth worked but nothing came. Corinne shifted, confidence leaking out of her posture. Dylan, fueled by cheap courage, took a step toward me. Steel, he snorted. She wouldn't even have this place without us. Our name, our connections. She should be grateful. Grateful. My voice cracked once, then settled into something that carried. For what? Being told I'd top out at barely enough? For being laughed at whenever I cleared a milestone? For watching you take while I worked double so I didn't have to ask you for anything? I took 2 steps and lifted the phone so the lens met his stare. You think I'm still manageable? I'm not. His smirk faltered. Corinne glanced at the door. Jenna folded her arms tighter, chin high, eyes shaky. Graham didn't raise his tone. He didn't need to. You have 5 minutes, he said. Bag your things and walk out, or we bring in an impartial referee with a badge. Police. Corinne hissed, face pinched. You'd call them on family? Family isn't a hall pass, I said. Not after you've bled me for years. The truth surprised even me with how clean it sounded in the open. It loosened something in my chest I didn't realize was cinched. You're bluffing, Jenna shot back too fast. You wouldn't. Graham scrolled his phone, screen glow painting his hand. Test that theory. No one moved. A full beat. Then Corinne's shoulders fell. She grabbed her purse with a mutter that didn't add up to words. Jenna packed on adrenaline and curses. Dylan lingered, jaw tight, eyes mean. This isn't over, he said. It already is, I answered. The door caught hard and clapped shut behind them. Silence settled. Not emptiness, space. My hands shook now that I could afford to feel it. Graham studied my face, the stern melted out of his eyes. You with me? Better than fine, I said, breath finally moving. I'm done letting them write captions under my life. I turned and took in the mess, bottles, shoes, crumbs, the petty graffiti of entitlement. The old dread tried to climb my spine. It didn't make it far. They'd test the boundary again. Parasites don't surrender because you swat once. Then we make it expensive to try, Graham said, kneeling to sweep the glass Jenna dropped. I'm already on it, I told him. I didn't sleep. I ran the footage. Every laugh. Every claim. Every careless line about what I supposedly owed. I clipped highlights. Labeled timestamps. Saved files to redundant backups. Then I opened the other drawers in this war chest. Transfers I'd made to Dylan that never came back. Messages from Corinne that read like invoices for affection. Jenna's short-term loans that aged into debts. Screenshots. Statements. Paper that doesn't argue. By morning I had an evidence stack thick enough to brief. Not revenge. Truth. A record in case anyone needed reminding whose name was on the deed. And what happens when you mistake discipline for softness. I clipped each segment, labeled it, stored it in mirrored folders. Then I opened the rest of the drawers. Transfers to Dylan that never returned, Corinne's "you owe me" messages that read like invoices, Jenna's short-term loans that grew cobwebs. Receipts. Screenshots. A paper trail that didn't blink. By dawn I had a case file thick enough to brief a room. Graham watched from the island, expression neutral, voice low. "You sure you want to take it all the way?" "This isn't payback," I said. "It's record-keeping. They've written my story for years. I'm done letting them be the narrator." He nodded once. "Then we follow through." The opening came quick. Corinne planned a family get-together the following weekend. Of course I wasn't invited. I went anyway. Not as the niece they remembered, but as the woman who'd already secured the ground. Conversations died when I stepped in. The murmur spread like a brush fire. Dylan's smirk lit first. "Look who crawled out." I didn't rise to it. I placed a small thumb drive on the table and slid it toward the TV. "Before anyone performs, watch." The screen kicked on. My living room. Corinne draped over my ottoman. Dylan on my couch, a beer lifted like a trophy. Jenna in my kitchen, mouth shaped around entitlement. Their voices played crisp. "She'll hand it over eventually. She's too soft to push back. We deserve a piece. She's pathetic." Temperature drop. Breathing thinned. Color bled from Corinne's face. Dylan's theatrics sagged. Jenna's hand shook against her glass. "You wanted my house to be yours?" I said, keeping my tone even. "Congratulations. Now everyone gets a clear picture of how you tried." Gasps pinged from the corners. The cousins who always nodded along with Corinne studied their shoes. Dylan shot up, blotchy with anger. "You had no right." "I had every right," I answered. "You entered my home without permission. You used my things. You mocked me in my kitchen. And you counted on my silence. That era is over." No comeback landed. The power source they'd fed on for years, my quiet, was unplugged. I gathered the drive in my bag. "Stay out of my life and off my property," I said, voice steadier than I felt. "Next violation isn't a screening for relatives. It's an exhibit for law enforcement." Silence pressed in. I turned for the door, then glanced back once out of habit, not need. Jenna blinked hard, Corinne's lip trembled, Dylan's fists balled with nowhere to go. None of it mattered anymore. I wasn't leaving in defeat. I was leaving with the ground under my feet. That night at home, Graham slid a glass of water across the counter. The stiffness had drained from his face. "You finally stood up to them." I exhaled, something I'd been carrying since childhood. "No. I finally stood up for me." The house listened. Not empty, quiet. Peace, the kind you earn. I let my eyes travel the lines of the place I built. The walls, the table, the narrow stack of books by the window. For years I'd been told nothing I made would be enough, that I would never be enough. But the proof was all around me. Keys in my pocket, deed in my name, and a boundary held. This wasn't just a house anymore. It was evidence. That I survived. That I pushed back. That I won. And there isn't a blood tie, old ghost, or loud opinion on earth that's going to take it from me.